and the surrounding park. Marsha earned her bachelor's degree in sociology from Denison University and a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Virginia Tech University. These led her to join the Detroit City Planning Commission in 1975 and served as its director from 1983 to 2005. This work was invaluable in giving her the foundation to prepare a strong grant proposals. Of 19 grant requests made to the City of Detroit, State of Michigan, Knight, Kresge, and Davidson Foundations, and others, 16 were approved.
Wow.
Most of which were written by Marsha. With support of the City of Detroit, State of Michigan, philanthropic organizations, hundreds of neighbors, friends, an astounding $1.9 million was raised to create this plaza and location. As you know, Marsha has a great love for art, and she used that love of art to bring this sculpture from the late Charles McGee. And most recently, we dedicated the mosaic tile that you see on the other side, designed with help from the Children in Cook School and completed by Hubert Massey. If there are members of the Legacy Committee or the Centennial Committee, I would like them to stand and be recognized. On behalf of myself, the Board of Directors, we want to thank you for your volunteerism. That is amazing, and that's how this organization works. With that, I would like to invite Krista Bruhn up and say a few remarks.
Hello everyone, can you hear me okay? Yes. Thank you for coming today to honor my mother in this incredible neighborhood. Okay, let's see if we can do this. I'll do this. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, is that good? So, my family moved to Detroit back in 1976 from Redford Township. So my mother could keep her job with the Planning Commission. At least back then, if you worked for the city of Detroit, you had to live within the city limits. I didn't know that would be the beginning of my mother's lifelong legacy to the city of Detroit and the neighborhood of Rosedale Park. She came to call home. Not only did she put her heart and soul into her job, ultimately becoming the director of the City Planning Commission, where she worked to balance the interests of neighborhoods with development projects. That delicate dance meant protecting neighborhoods from corporate interests, formulating public regulations for the casinos, and even speaking out against having a casino on the river to ensure public access with the Riverwalk, which, by the way, was recently voted the best river walk in the country 3 years in a row by USA Today. Besides these contributions to the city, her dedication included this neighborhood that became home for our family. Even after her 4 children made their own way in the world, all leaving the city to scatter across the country and the globe, she stayed here beyond her retirement in 2005, as committed as ever to Detroit and Rosedale Park. This neighborhood and the city of Detroit still hold a special place in my heart and have shaped my own life decisions, even if my life path took me elsewhere. It taught me that positive change can come out of the struggle for freedom, equality, and dignity. When we moved here, the burnt out buildings of Detroit's rebellion, the burnt out buildings from Detroit's rebellion in 1967 during the Civil Rights era that left the city of Detroit economically in ruins were still smoldering. The once vibrant Motor City, with its rich Motown history, faced an uncertain future in a nation still struggling to come to terms with its brutal founding that included the dispossession of Native Americans from their homeland, slavery and segregation of Black Americans, and what the American dream really means for all Americans. In all my years since growing up here in Detroit, I saw the city fall further and further into desperation and disrepair. Over decades, I watched my mother work tirelessly to infuse life back into the city, but the pockets of progress seemed like drops in the bucket. While the city struggled to find a way to get back on its feet, my mother poured her heart and soul and even her own personal resources, not only into the city, but into the neighborhood. Even if the city was going down, she wasn't about to let her neighborhood fall into disarray. As homes across the city literally collapsed due to neglect, she was buying homes and organizing home and garden tours to give them a new lease on life. As those efforts were formalized into development projects to revitalize the city through initiatives like the Economic Development Corporation, my mother shifted her attention to the heart center of the neighborhood where we find ourselves today, this park and community house. From creating a vision in partnership with the University of Detroit's Collaborative Design Center, to applying for grants with the Kresge Foundation and many others to secure the funds needed to transform that vision into a reality, what became the capital campaign of the Legacy Project, my mother rallied her neighbors and institutions that together have secured the future of the neighborhood and the city for the next 100 years. The history book of the neighborhood is testimony to how far we have come, and a good indication that the spirit of Detroit is alive and well, not only here in Rosedale Park, but across the entire city. We should all take pride in her legacy of helping put Detroit back on the map. That in spite of the tumultuous history of the city and our nation, we can imagine a better future where the borders of the city do not define who deserves to live with dignity. The resilience we Detroiters have witnessed here is part of our own national story that brings together the downtrodden to rise up and make this nation and our world greater than ever. We must never be complacent, or we shall find ourselves once again surrounded by burnt out storefronts, and we must never take for granted the work and dedication of those who came before us, those who stand before us right here and right now. So let us each do our part by not only remembering that legacy, but carving out our own contribution to carry the work forward. It takes a village to keep a city vibrant, to serve as the center of community. It takes, to provide safety and opportunity, leadership and hope as we face new challenges on the horizon. Thank you all for coming today to recognize my mother's legacy and our role in carrying her legacy forward to keep Rosedale Park and the city of Detroit a proud place to be in community. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for those remarks, I'd like to invite Representative Stephanie Young to the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So our Congresswoman and your neighbor here in North Rosedale Park, Rashida Tlaib, she had to leave to get to a UAW thing, you know, all about solidarity, right? And so, but she made it a point to be here early so that you would know how much she appreciates you and cares about you. And so I'm gonna start with her recognition. Now the president didn't know we were doing this, but there was no way we could miss an opportunity just to say thank you. And so this is from your Congresswoman, the Congressional Record, House of Representatives, the Honorable Rashida Tlaib of Michigan in the House of Representatives. Now, everyone before us has said all the remarkable things. So we're gonna just say a couple of things, what's on here, right? And this is what it says. Rashida says, I rise today to recognize Marsha Bruhn, a public servant and longtime resident of Detroit in Michigan's 12th District strong, for her numerous outstanding contributions to the city and to the Grandma Rosedale community she calls home. And we skip down to the bottom. She just says, everyone, please join me in thanking Marsha as we recognize her dedication and thank her for her commitment and service to North Rosedale Park, Grandma Rosedale, and the entire city of Detroit. And this is from your Congress. Then we come down a few levels in government and we get to me. Your humble, friendly state representative. This is from me. And again, it simply says, let it be known that it is with a great sense of pride and admiration for all of the sacrifices that you made on behalf of the people of North Rosedale Park that we salute you, Marsha Bruhn. It's more than fitting that the North Rosedale Park Civic Association bestows its highest honor and name the plaza at the community house in your honor in recognition of your years of community service. And it simply says, in special tribute thereof, this document is signed and dedicated to honor and thank Marsha for work making North Rosedale Park a great place to live. May health and happiness be yours now and in the future. And so I just like to say that many of you all know I used to be the neighborhood city hall manager, where we now have Rosa Coffee Shop. It was the neighborhood city hall. And that's when I first met Marsha. Because people who really care about their community usually made their way to the neighborhood city hall to share concerns and suggestions and those types of things. But I loved it because that's what made our community stronger, knowing that people care and that you held folks accountable. And so from there, I went and became the District 1 manager, where we continue to have conversations. And now in the role of state representative, I look forward to continue to learn and to grow from all that you have to offer us as we continue to make our city the great place that it can be. So thank you for your service. God bless you, and we love you, Marsha. Becky's gonna take this for Rashida. Let's look this way. Come on, Becky. Got it. All right. All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, so that was unexpected, but I was going to invite anyone from the Legacy Committee or the Centennial Committee that might want to say a few remarks to come up if they'd like to.
Don't be shy.
I see Tracy's going
I made it.
How you doing?
Hi. Hello, everyone. I really didn't expect to speak, but when Marsha, but when I found out Marsha was being honored with this plaza, which she totally deserves. Marsha has been, let me tell you, Marsha knows, because how many times have you and I argued? And let me tell you, Marsha, that's true. Because let me say this, Marsha, you know, I've been living in this neighborhood for about almost 30 years now, and no one ever reached out to me. And then maybe about 10 years, 7 years ago, I don't even remember, Marsha reached out to me. And Marsha had a project she wanted to do. And, you know, I'm like, anything to support the neighborhood, because, you know, that's what you do. But that's when I realized what a force Marsha is in this neighborhood that we all don't appreciate. And I didn't even appreciate it living here for so long, think about it, I was here probably 20 years, and I didn't even appreciate the community I lived in. I didn't know anything until Marsha. And what I love about Marsha is her vision. What I love about you, Marsha, is the fact that you don't let any of us naysayers stand in your way. What I love about Marsha is the fact that, think about it, she pushes through no matter what. Even I was a doubter sometimes. And what I love about you is when I see your vision, no matter what, comes to fruition. And you have given us so much that people don't even know. She's given us this edition. She's given us the art. She's actually helped out at Cook School, and people don't even know what she's done. And Marsha, you have been such a force of quiet resistance, I don't know, against the rest of us. But I just want to let you know that I totally appreciate you. And I want you to know that I totally respect you. I'm amazed by you, and that I think that you are really, we can almost name this neighborhood Marsha Bruhn. Because of all the work you've done. And I am so glad that someone finally, I'm not gonna say anything, but finally something is done to give you the credit that you deserve. Even though the neighborhood, even though this community house, everything is really you. And I just want to let you know, I do appreciate you. And even though we're neighbors and we don't talk all that often like we used to all the time, but I love you. Not just as a human, but as a person that did all this for us, because we could have deteriorated, but you fought and pushed people like me and others to get on board. And I really admire you for that. And your energy, there's so much we could say about her, isn't it? And this is coming off the cuff, so I didn't prepare any remarks, but I just want you to know I do appreciate you. And you are one of the few people that I have to admit, you are right. and I have to admit that you have done such a fabulous, fabulous thing for where I live and where my children grew up. And we all thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much.
Former President Irma Lee Park.
Oh, shoot. Thank you so much. I actually came up not as former president, but as a member of the Legacy Committee. And though I'm a person of few words, Marsha, I just want to say so much has been said that is true, that is wonderful, and so deserving of Marsha. But I want to say that I feel everything that she does from the heart. And when you act from the heart, there's never a wrong thing. Even if you offend, it's because it's her love of this community, her love of us as her neighbors and as her friends. I am fortunate to be a neighbor on the same street, but also Marsha and I used to walk together. And so I've heard stories, but they're all wonderful stories about how much she has loved working with everyone and being here and living here, not just, one house, but 2 houses, 3 houses in the neighborhood. So, moved but stayed around, didn't leave when she could have left. So thank you, Marsha. I love you. You're a wonderful friend and a wonderful neighbor and a wonderful civic leader, and we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
name is Demita McCauley, and I live on the Grandmont side. But I just wanted to extend my thank you to Marsha because she saw something in me that I did not see in myself. And I worked on a legacy project as well. We brought the Great Art, Great Park over here in 2015. And I was a member, or am a member, of the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club. And she recruited me, like she recruited many of you guys, to come on and work on a project. And that's what we did. And so we had one of the first art exhibitions here amongst a lot of artists, and we helped fund this project. And I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership. I learned a lot. And I just thank you immensely for what you have done for me. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm not a resident of this neighborhood. My name is Harriet Saperstein, and I've been a friend of Marsha's, and our families have been friends for 30 years, since she first came to Detroit when I was working at that time in the planning department under Coleman Young. I then went on to other things. Detroit wasn't tough enough for me, so I took on Highland Park. But Marsha never gave up, either on the city or on Rosedale Park. And a city functions when its neighborhoods function. And one of the issues in Detroit is the need that we have for strong neighborhoods of every class and of every kind. And Rosedale Grandmont is an example that needs to be in the history books. And it's partly because of some of you here, and it's also because of Marsha. Her leadership helped, as other people have said today, take many of you and understand that we all have a part in making our neighborhood, our community, our country, and our world better. And as a personal friend, and as well as an old city person as well, I'd like to thank Martha and thank her for all those other people who don't live in this neighborhood, but who have benefited from what you have done. Thank you, Martha.
Great, Mr. Marcel Todd.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon to my fellow residents. Unlike Harriet, I am here with the city, representing the city, but I am also part of this greater Grandmont Rosedale collective as another resident of Grandmont. And to Marsha, my former boss, this is long overdue. And we are, as a staff of the City Planning Commission, on behalf of its members, and I guess I'll step into the shoes of Councilman Tate since he's not here and say the same on behalf of City Council, its current configuration, and the configurations of the commission, the council, and staff past. We are indeed pleased. We are honored to be here to honor you as the community is honoring you, because indeed your legacy speaks for itself. I will not repeat all that's been said, but I will say this much on a somewhat personal note, adding to what has been said. I owe my career to Marsha. Not only is she the professional that you have seen here in this community, and of course those of you who've also seen and know her work when she was with the city, what she did behind the scenes to make some of those things happen that have been alluded to, all of that hard work, the long hours. She was not only dedicated from that professional sense, her passion, her commitment as a public service, but she did so socially. She did so with us as staff. And I don't think that there's a person who has come through the City Planning Commission staff, whether you always agreed with Marsha or not, that did not appreciate that professionalism, that did not appreciate the personal way in which she dealt with us. That is emblematic of the true public servant. That commitment to city takes being personal, personally invested. And that is what she did then, what she is doing now, and I imagine will continue to do as long as she lives. And maybe one day when I finally retire, now being, what is it, 20 years since you left, Marsha?
I left
20?
in 2005.
2005, so 23 years, I'm sorry, 20 years, not going the other way, 18 years. Maybe, if my other boss, my wife, will let me when I finally retire, because Marsha taught us longevity. You gotta stay in the job for at least 30-some years. So maybe I too can follow in her footsteps and continue to give here in my neighboring community. Again, Marsha, congratulations. We're looking forward to even more work. And thank you, because even though you're committed here, as some of you know, she's still involved in some of the other city projects, some of the things that are affecting this community, some of the industrial and commercial projects that raise their ugly heads when they try to intrude upon the community. And that's the kind of leadership we need citywide. Thank you all for honoring her and for doing what you do to complement the work that she does, for everybody working as community should. Bless you all.
It gives me great pleasure to invite our honoree, Marsha S. Bruhn.
Oh, thank you. This is such an honor. I'm absolutely overwhelmed. Eric, thank you for the introduction, and to the board for this great honor. I want to also thank Beverly Frederick for putting this event together today. Because Beverly is another workhorse in this community, and often an unsung hero. So. I want to thank my daughter Krista for her remarks. She's not only here for this, but she spoke at our church this morning, and she's here on book reviews for her new book. And I'm telling you, I'm always about marketing. Crossing Borders, the Search for Integrity in Palestine. So what she was talking about in terms of integrity and togetherness and working for justice and peace, in her book resonate, of course, with what she said about this community. I also want to recognize my oldest daughter here is Elisa from San Jose, California. My daughter Erica from Chicago. My granddaughter, Krista's daughter, also from Madison, Wisconsin. And unfortunately, my son can't be here. He's doing a project in Vietnam through the U.S. Embassy there. And I do want to recognize my life partner, Don, who's in the back. And he knows firsthand the work that I've put into this neighborhood. And I welcome to all of you who have come to share this momentous occasion with me. It's like my life flashing before me, because I look back, there are people from our Women in Planning group that we women planners in the 70s formed a Women in Planning group for professional development for the women, instead of just going out to the country and drinking beer. And then, of course, Marcel has already spoken about the City Planning Commission and my years there. Other colleagues, so many neighbors and friends, and so many people here who have worked on projects with me and made this happen, because this was always a team effort. It's not just about me, it's about all of you who have worked to help make this neighborhood what it is. Krista mentioned when we moved here in '76, my husband took a job as Dean of the College of Arts, Sciences, and Letters at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. And I was working for the city, and as Krista said, there was a residency requirement. So we fortunately were steered towards the North Rosedale neighborhoods from a colleague at Dearborn. We first rented a house right across the street for a year. Then we bought right over here, almost across from the park, on Glastonbury. And then when my husband and I parted ways and our children were grown, I downsized and moved to my cute little gingerbread house, my Tudor, in Shaftesbury. And some of our Shaftesbury neighbors are here. And I can't believe it. I have been there for 35 years. So after I retired from the city in 2005, and I got some surgeries underway, out of my way, I really turned my attention to the neighborhood. And as Krista talked about the problems in the city, that was the beginning of the fiscal crisis. And so the reason I was interested in reinvigorating the Code Enforcement Committee and the neighborhood open houses were because I saw the vacant houses, I saw unkept lots, long grass. I know I saw Beverly's back there, joined with me on the first Code Enforcement Committee. And Charles, I know Charles Weidendorf is here too, and others. But the whole idea was to begin to, what happens is you let some things go and it's like creeping, it's like a cancer, it creeps. So when people don't cut their grass, when they leave their garbage cans out, when they start auto repair in the backyard, when they start bringing home big tractor trailers, those are the signs that things are starting to slip. And so we did get involved with the Code Enforcement Committee, and then we started the Neighborhood Open House. And I know many of you here participated in those neighborhood open houses, which I chaired for many years, and then Cheryl Davis took over. In fact, what ended the neighborhood open houses, and that's when we invited people to come in, we marketed the neighborhood, we had brochures, we did tours, houses that were for sale were open. When we started, I don't know, there were 40-some houses or more on the list, but we ended that project because we became successful. Our neighborhood came back, and there were so few houses on the market that we didn't need to do that anymore. And then the other big thing was the community house. I became president in 2011, and I was lucky to have Jim Johnson, Jim, as the vice president, and Jim and I both shared a vision to update the community house. There had been a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of things needed to be addressed, but that took money. And to raise money, you need to have, at least at that time, the tax laws hadn't changed, you had to have be a 501c3 nonprofit. So Jim took on the task of getting the bylaws amended, working with our consultant, our pro bono consultant, getting our articles of incorporation changed, and getting IRS certification as a 501c3. And Jim Dills, there's a lot of credit to Jim to getting that started, as well as the Legacy Project. The other person I want to recognize along with the Legacy Project is Don Scheibel. And Don, you need to stand. Don is an architect and a former resident of North Rosedale Park. And for 10 years, Don has given his services pro bono for the contacting contractors, bidding, writing contracts, overseeing much of the work that was done here. And Don, I want to personally thank you for all that you've done for us.
We're honoring the brains, and I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to be a small part of the brawl.
Well, as has been stated by others, I don't want to repeat everything. Obviously, we got this beautiful addition. We got handicapped accessible restrooms, a new roof, a rebuilt and expanded parking lot. a new commercial kitchen to serve budding food entrepreneurs, and then this wonderful plaza and the public art. I can't begin to tell you how many people volunteered in bringing all of this together. I mean, it truly was a village, and all the fundraising that went on. Tracy Matlock, who spoke earlier, who said that we were sort of like this. Well, she gave me a hard time. But she also co-chaired with me one of the most successful fundraisers that we had. So, so that's all about working together with people. People, you can disagree, you can have your points of view, but what you want to do is stay focused on the goal, what you're trying to achieve, and then you do that. This level of commitment that this neighborhood shows, and not just North Rosedale Park, but our four sister neighborhoods of Rosedale Park, Grandmont 1, and Minnick Park, is this tremendous commitment to keeping our neighborhood stable, keeping it vibrant. I don't know that we'll go back to where we were voted in 1996, one of the top 10 neighborhoods in the southeastern Michigan. We may not be that again. But if you think about this, when this community was developed, there was nothing here. The first people, the pioneers who moved here, there were wooden sidewalks, there were social functions. The men built a clubhouse. It was for the men and the boys. The women could use it. But they built it themselves, the residents of this neighborhood. And then in 1939, they sold chairs and they raised the money to build the community house, the original community house. So it's and then over the years, there have been all kinds of battles. Southfield Freeway, the configuration of that. Some of you probably remember the real estate solicitation in the mid-70s when the realtors, 12 of them, were trying to scare people, who's moving in, look who's moving into your neighborhood kind of thing. And our neighborhood and others took them to court and it was, his name was, the judge, I can't remember the name, anyway, they won. So that just shows you what you can do when you work together, when you have that vision and you work collectively to implement it. I mentioned the grant writing. Peter Fletcher's here, the cellist. He offered his services pro bono. There, hi Peter, for one of our fundraisers. And then Demita McCauley mentioned some of the others. The steering committee, Irma spoke, Bill Fraze. I want to recognize our steering committee. Kathy Marks Marshall was initially with us until she left the neighborhood. Carol Allen, Carol's there. Tex Chu, unfortunately, is out of the city. But Gloria Goodwine, Lynn Garrett, Mary Davis, and of course Rose Love. And Rose, I know, is here. But this was a committee that kind of oversaw the whole process. Really, individual members worked really tirelessly to raise the funds. And I have to, as Eric mentioned, foundations, Kresge Knight, there were so many foundations and corporations that raised money for these improvements, as well as over 400 individuals. I just want to end by saying why the naming of the plaza is particularly meaningful to me. In the first place, we have all these wonderful brick pavers here. There were 272 people who bought an engraved brick paver or donated to the project. And when I look at these, I am just so touched about the things that people feel about the neighborhood. And these are people, some of their residents, but some of them are people who have left and that still have strong feelings. So things like thanks for the memories and friends, home in the park since 1980, living and loving Rosedale, and many are in memory of. So I was very intricately involved with this, with the Detroit Collaborative Design Center, which actually designed the plaza, and then has been said with Charles McGee and Hubert Massey, the two artists. Is Hubert here?
Yes, he's here.
Where's Hubert? Hubert. This was a true partnership. I know Hubert's mural took a little longer, but I tell you, I was involved every step of the way. Marsha, come over. I want you to see the tiles. Marsha, come over. I want you to see the framework. And it got done, and it's a wonderful addition, and it will have a plaque. I worked with Charles McGee for several years, sitting in his home as he designed, as he made changes to this incredible work of art. This rivals anything you would see at the Detroit Institute of Arts or throughout the city of Detroit. And unfortunately, he did pass not too long ago. But both Charles and Hubert, wonderful human beings, and have both gave so much to their art and to us as a neighborhood. And then the plaza. I love coming over here. Detroit Opera. Is Arthur White still here? Oh, I think Arthur left. Arthur's the outreach person for Detroit Opera. We have opera out here, and I love seeing people sitting on the plaza, enjoying themselves. Another time there was dance music and people were dancing. So it's truly a community gathering space, and that's what is particularly meaningful to me to have my name associated with that. So just in closing, today's not just about celebrating the work I've done, but celebrating all of you who have been and are an important part of my life and who have made all of this happen. It's really, I forgot to say something at the beginning, that when we moved here, I loved the homes, the architecture, the individuality of the homes, the curving streets, the trees. What I didn't know at that time in the mid-'70s was that it's the people. It's the people that make the place. And that's truly, truly the message I want to leave. It has been the people who have made this the place for me personally and for my family. It's all about community. And thank you again for coming and sharing the celebration with me.